This is the supply chain project for Group 6, which includes Yuhang C., Cynthia N., David Y., Yulin Y., and Eric W. We're going to be doing our presentation on the Fort Garry Brewing Company. So we'll start with a quick overview of our presentation. To start, we will talk about the company history, then the facility layout, process flow diagrams, and distribution. It is important to note that we didn't visit Fort Garry Brewing Company in person, so the diagrams may not be 100% accurate, but are based off of common practices for brewing beer. I will now move on to the company history. Fort Garry Brewing Company was founded by B.W. Hoshin in 1930 in Winnipeg. In 1960, Fort Garry Brewing was sold to Molson Brewing. In 1994, Richard Hoshin, grandson of B.W. Hoshin, resurrected Fort Garry Brewing Company in Winnipeg. In 2007, Fort Garry Brewing amalgamated with Russell Brewing in BC to grow their brand. Today, Fort Garry Brewing continues to grow their popular lineup of craft beer. I will now pass it to Cynthia to discuss the facility layout.
Like we said before, we didn't have a chance to visit Fort Garry Brewing, so this is our best guess of their brewing facility from common practices in the industry. Specifically, the layout reflects a craft brewing company that experiments in making new beers. The layout is set up in order of the process to make it efficient. The milling room is separate because it is fire retardant since malt is highly flammable. Small vessels are for experimenting with small batches to create new flavors and types of beer until they are perfected and ready for a large batch. They have ample storage to be able to store and distribute beer for other companies and to hold beer that they have made for other companies to sell and distribute. The lab testing room is where they keep recipes and some of each type of beer made. The beer kept can be used to compare future batches with the original batch to maintain consistency and quality. I will now pass on to Yulin to go over the process flow diagram. Thank you.
The first picture is of the overall flow diagram. However, we will break it down into smaller sections to better understand. Step 1 is the grain mill. The barley malt goes into the mill where it is cracked open, allowing the starches to be accessed. The cracked grain then travels up the auger and into the hopper where it is then released into mash tun. Step 2, mashing. As the cracked grain feeds into the mash tun, tempered water is added to the mix and the brewmaster begins the mashing phase. The brew is now known as the mash and is left to sit for 1 hour to convert the starches into the fermentable sugars. Step 3 is lautering. After 1 hour, the brewmaster transfers the mash into the lauter tun. Here, the liquid from the mash is separated from mixture, which is now called sweet wort. The wort is then collected into the brew kettle and the remaining mash is then flushed with sparge water to collect as much of the sweet wort. Step 4, brew kettle. The wort is boiled for 1 to 2 hours depending on the recipe. During the boil, the brewmaster adds bittering hops at the start of the brew and aromatic hops at the end of the brew. He adds a natural clarifying agent called Irish moss, which helps remove large particles from the liquid. Irish moss is a seaweed that is harvested off the coast of Newfoundland. Step 2 is the whirlpool. The next stage of the brewing process is called whirlpool, where the liquid is pumped out of the brew kettle into the whirlpool kettle, which creates a whirlpool-like action. The heavy particles, called the trub, are forced to settle in the center of the kettle, leaving a brilliantly clear wort. The wort is then run out of the whirlpool kettle through the counterflow heat exchanger unit, and the temperature of the liquid is cooled down to help create ideal conditions for the yeast to take effect. Step 6, fermentation. From the counterflow heat exchange, the liquid is then pumped into the fermenter and the yeast is added. The yeast will begin to digest the sugar from the wort and create 2 byproducts, carbon dioxide and alcohol. Step 7, conditioning. After fermentation has completed, the liquid is now called green beer, and the beer can be refrigerated to below -0 Celsius to condition the beer for 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the type of beer that is being brewed. This conditioning period allows the flavors of the brew to integrate, resulting in a full flavored, well-rounded product. Step 8 is filtration. All Fort Garry Brewing's products are carefully filtered down to 1 microcon, which is ideal for drought beer. The filtration process is carefully monitored by the brewmaster to ensure that a clean, high-quality product is delivered. The final step, step 9, is packaging of beer. The beer is then packaged into a variety of formats ready for direct delivery to a variety of fine pubs and eateries and liquor stores located throughout Manitoba.
Distribution management refers to the process of overseeing the complete movement of goods from supplier or manufacturer to final point of sale. This movement starts at the company's internal facilities from the raw material stage and progresses to finished good and inventory, where the distribution then shifts externally, where inventories are transported to be kept in warehouse or shipped to the final consumer. It is important to understand that the concept and the decision made on distribution greatly affect those processes as well as those other supply chain management processes within Fort Garry Brewing Company. The stronger your processes are that you implement will help to create a better competitive advantage, with the organization will be able to accomplish creating this competitive advantage will be through improving their internal distribution methods with their own facilities through their design, layout, and process flow. The more efficient a product can move through the raw material stage to the finished goods stage will improve production, as well as external distribution, with ensuring that the transportation from the supplier to the final consumer is as systematically efficient as possible. There's also pressure put on companies to ensure that their distribution are sustainable, which means working with retail partners and government agencies to collect and recycle used products. When it comes down to it, ensuring that your organization has quality and efficient distribution method is crucial to the overall success of the business and must be executed properly for an organization to thrive in the marketplace.
First is the placement of the finished goods and inventories. Fort Garry has a wide range of the inventory they hold in their warehouse. They make sure to separate finished goods inventory from the raw material inventory, making sure that nothing is accounted for. You can find Fort Garry beer in all of the liquor marts across the Manitoba, as well as many vendors. They are also featured in many restaurants and golf courses. Unique to Fort Garry is their brewing of beer of specific company, such as the Angry Fish beer for the Winnipeg Gold Ice baseball team, or the Westman Large of the University of Winnipeg sports teams. Fort Garry has the room of the girls as they are only sold in Manitoba, and could expand the rest of Canada.